I'd like to call to order the town board meeting for March 26, 2025 at roughly 6:30 p.m. We are remote and virtual, so we do our meetings with the Zoom that runs here. So if you're interested in joining us via Zoom to participate in the meeting, you can find the instructions at the top of each of our agendas. We're also streaming to Facebook and TV. So next up, I would like to ask Council Nicholson to listen first.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I don't have any signage for open podium, so just a show of hands, if anybody is here for open podium, so that's specifically not one of the two public hearings we have on the agenda tonight. And if there's anyone here via Zoom who would like to make a comment on open podium, please use the raise hand function. So, no one here for open podium? Okay, so we'll roll right into the first public hearing. So do you want to talk about this a little bit before we open it up?
So, there is a small street called Mulberry Lane that had a light that turned out to be privately owned. When it fell down, they didn't have any light, it was very dark. So they inquired about getting a street light. Turns out that they now need to join a lighting district. So they signed the petition to join the lighting district, and that's why we're here with public hearing, is to allow Mulberry Lane and Townsend Road to join the lighting district 1 to get their one street light that National Grid will put up and take care of for them. So I'm going to make a motion to waive the reading.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So anyone in the first row here for the Mulberry Drive?
Mulberry Lane.
Mulberry Lane, public hearing.
Can I ask a question about that? Is
Maybe
that
you'd like to
one?
come up to the podium, sir?
Pardon?
You gotta
Just
come up
please
to the
come
microphone,
podium.
please. Come on.
I was just inquiring, is that one or two streetlights that there?
It's for just one at the moment, at the end, at Townsend and Mulberry.
Well, we thought there were gonna be two.
Mhm.
One on the intersection of Mulberry and Townsend,
Mhm.
and then another one on the end of Mulberry Lane.
We can request that, but National Grid only offered the one.
That's what we were led to believe,
So
okay?
So we can
We can
ask.
ask.
And they already have existing telephone poles there,
Mhm.
all right, in both places. So all what they need to do is to put the streetlights up.
Okay, could you just mention your name for the record?
Yeah, Sheridan Bushy,
And we'll follow up with National Grid to have them do that.
pardon?
We'll follow up with National Grid to have them put the second one up too.
Okay, thank you.
I now have a question.
Come on up.
Okay. Sorry that I don't know how National Grid works, but since they've authorized one, if we request two, could we wind up losing both?
No, we'll definitely get the one.
Okay, so the one's a done deal?
Yeah, we just have to,
Basically, what this is simply putting you in the lighting district, and then National Grid can provide however many lights they want.
Okay, and then we'll be billed to it or through our taxes?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, could you say your name for the record?
Harold Muller.
so the resolution we have prepared does have, I mean, it's in the whereas statements, but it does have the cost.
Mhm.
So should we just say, like, subject to final review, or do we need to wait to vote on this until we talk to National Grid and find out if they're willing to do that second lane?
Well, I mean, I think we should pass this tonight with the understanding it's for at least one, and then if we want to get a second one, we'll just do another resolution increasing the cost again. I
Okay.
think there's no point in waiting to do both. We should try to do the one now and understand, reach out to National Grid again, we'll have to just do another resolution with a higher cost at a later time.
Okay, that's
This
fine.
resolution refers to it as an estimated cost
Yeah,
right
it's an
now.
estimated cost. So maybe we can get both for cheaper, fall under the cost. We
Yeah,
don't-
so if we need to, we'll yeah, so when you look at the view of the resolution, I think it's fine. And if we need to,
If we need to increase the cost, we'll do another resolution.
yeah, that sounds good.
We would need to do another, if the costs go up, we would need to do another. We've noticed the estimated cost in our previous
Okay.
notice, so it would require a new public notice.
Okay.
Okay, so does that make sense? So we're gonna go ahead with what we have here tonight, but we're still gonna reach out to National Grid about a second light. And then, we may have to do another public hearing and another resolution, but we'll get the ball rolling on that first light at the very least.
Okay.
Is there anyone else here to speak at the Mulberry Lane public hearing? Anybody in the audience, please, or the Zoom audience, please use the raise hand function.
Motion closed.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Right, so based on this conversation, motion to adopt a resolution in the matter increasing or improving the facilities of the streetlight district, number 1 pursuant to Article 12 of town law, with the understanding we will resubmit for a second light and do this all again.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And they were faster than I thought they'd be for this, so maybe they'll put it up soon too.
Okay, so next up, we have a public hearing for the zone change application by TH Kinsella Quarry. So in a recent meeting, we did adopt or re-adopt a quarry permit for the existing quarry. So this is the zone change for the additional 11 to 12 acres. And then this will also have to be followed by an update to the quarry permit for these additional acres. So with that, I will say, we did get the county planning recommendation, and the recommendation from our own planning board, did reference, the county recommendation. So we've taken a look at that, and let me just pull it up. The county planning did recommend that we do review potential environmental impacts of the zone change and proposed expansion of mining operations, including the reduction in forest land, noise, traffic, and air quality impacts to the surrounding properties. It's been part of this conversation pretty consistently, and we should ensure adequate avoidance and mitigation is identified prior to or as a condition of zone change approval. So the goal of tonight is we're going to have a public hearing to hear the public comments. We do have one letter to be read. And then we will take those comments, have some further discussion, and consider the zone change application at a future meeting. So with that,
Do you just- oh, I missed.
yeah, would you guys like to say anything before?
Yes, please. Good evening. My name is Mike Fogel. I'm an attorney. I'm representing Kinsella tonight in connection with the application for the rezoning. As Supervisor Deere pointed out, this is an application to rezone approximately 11.8 acres at the existing quarry. We want to make sure for the people that are here tonight that they understand that this 11.8 acre area that's being requested to be rezoned is directly adjacent to the existing quarry that's been there for over 50 years. I just want to give some background so you understand why the company is seeking this rezoning. Like I pointed out, the company's been there for over 50 years at the existing quarry. The stone from the quarry is used in connection with road building and other construction projects in the area. And really what this 11.8 acre area is intended to do is provide additional mineral reserves so the company can continue to operate and can continue to provide this really critical construction aggregate for construction projects, road building, et cetera. The existing reserves at the quarry are nearly exhausted, and that's another reason why it's really important that this zone change be approved. So it's a minor increase in those reserves to allow the operation to continue to operate. What's really important to understand is that there's no operational changes at all at the quarry that would occur as a result of the rezoning. Traffic, noise, everything else is going to remain the same. There's no new entrances or exits or points of ingress or egress. It's really just the opportunity to provide additional reserves, literally the inventory for the company. So we wanted to make sure we conveyed that. The other thing, just for everybody here, I think the board's aware, but for the members of the public that are here, in addition to the town rezoning the property and modifying the existing town permit, the operation is also regulated by New York State DEC. So there's a state mining permit that's in place that regulates the actual operation. DEC conducts inspections of the site to make sure that all the mining, all the conditions in the mining permit are being met. So also, there's an application that was submitted to DEC several years ago requesting that the same 11.8 acre area be included in the DEC mining permit. So in addition to the town's review, DEC is also going to be reviewing this. Now, the town board is the seeker lead agency for purposes of this rezoning and also the modification to the DEC mining permit. So DEC is really waiting for the town to complete its review, and then it's going to continue to conduct its own technical review of the application for all the types of areas that DEC reviews in connection with all mining permit applications in New York State. So we want to just point it out that there's multiple layers of review here. I want to talk a little bit about the map. Is it possible, Carrie, to pull that up?
This one right there.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a figure that we submitted in connection with the rezoning application. There were a few items that we added to this that we think provide some better clarity so everyone can understand exactly what's being proposed. There were really good comments that the planning board made when we were in front of them in the recommendation. I think the figure, the items that we added are really helpful. So first of all, I just want to point out, obviously this is the existing quarry. The area that we're proposing, the 11.8 acre area that we're proposing to be rezoned, is this piece right here, this area right here. 11.8 acres. It does cross 3 tax parcels. This is hashed area. One really important aspect is obviously it's directly adjacent to the existing quarry. If you see here, there's this gray line that's running right there. That's an existing berm that's already in place. It varies in height from about 12 feet to 15 feet, depending on the area. And that's a berm that was included as part of prior town board rezoning of the area as a way to mitigate against visual and potential noise impacts. So this area that's being proposed to be added in is within that bermed area. So we think that's really important for people to understand that, there's not going to be, you're not going to see in there, you're not going to even know that that new area is being mined. The other important things we wanted to point out is that this is the changing seasons neighborhood. One thing that we did before we came back to the town board, we worked very, very closely with the changing seasons neighborhood to address their concerns. There was a prior settlement agreement, and as a result of those discussions, we reached an amended settlement agreement with changing seasons, and we think that there was a lot of good that came out of that discussion as far as additional ways that we could address their concerns. So one of the things, this area right here, this was part of the initial agreement, but it's a 600-foot buffer that exists between the changing seasons neighborhood and the mining operation. This whole area is the 600-foot buffer.
What's the difference between the purple and the
Yep.
striped gray?
Yeah, so this whole area is 600-foot buffer. This blue area is a 250-foot forever wild area that's within the 600-foot buffer. And these areas are all defined meets and bounds and are part of an easement agreement and a restrictive covenant agreement that are entered into between changing seasons and Kinsella. So part of it's already reported with the Onondaga County Clerk's Office, and the amendment's going to be reported assuming the zone change gets approved. So that's really important that this is here. These parcels directly to the west, all the way out to here, are owned by Kinsella. So these aren't owned by any other neighbors. What we added here to these parcels is the blue hashing. Those have restrictive covenants on them already that were entered into in connection with the earlier agreement with changing seasons. So, first of all, these are zoned residential, so the company could mine it anyway. But as further, I guess, protection, these have restricted covenants on it that restrict any future mining or even like commercial development. So we think that's really important because, you know, it just serves as an additional protection or buffer area. Actually, the mining operation. So again, this is just the area that is being proposed to be rezoned. It's within the existing buffer. It's further surrounded by, you know, these parcels that have restricted covenants on them that prevent any mining or commercial development. And the 600-foot buffer area between the mining operation and changing season. So we wanted to make sure that was clear. I think the figure really helped bring that home.
Clarifying the drawing.
Where's the berm on the new section? Like gray, and then all of a sudden the gray goes away.
It's there. It's a little hard to see on here, but if it's running all along here.
Something else.
Yeah, it's right on the outside of it.
So that's not changing?
No, that berm's gonna stay in place. The only thing that this is gonna allow is, you know, for mining to occur in this area between the existing operation and the berm.
And are there trees on the berm in that area? Now, I know there are pine trees, the clearly visible gray line to the right. I know there's a row of pine trees and also downtown, but where you're talking about the new area, does that berm really have trees? I can't
It's
recall.
just natural growth there, and in the front, we softened it with those smaller berms up front, it's got the berm.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I mean, it's depending on the spot, it's between 12 and 15 feet high, so we think that that's gonna continue to prevent any, you know, real visibility issues. We don't think anyone's gonna be able to see it there, which is just continuing. Not sure what else you want us to cover right now. You know, the town board did reinstate the quarry commission, which you know, and, you know, that's gonna be a source of reviewing, you know, any recommendations that come out of that. If there are any complaints from neighbors, it's gonna be brought to the quarry commission's attention. Kinsella is gonna be required to respond to any of those complaints, address any concerns. So I think that's good that that was reinstated by the town board. We appreciate that. So, you know, we're happy to answer any other questions. We're looking forward to hearing the public comments, but we would appreciate town board's consideration of approve this zone change. So if the board has any questions
So
for me.
I would just ask, well, before we open the public hearing, are there any other questions about the map or any of the specifics about the proposal?
Will the depth of the new section be roughly the same as the depth of the existing section?
Yeah, I mean, that's, yes, and that was part of the agreement with, well, that was part of the agreement with changing seasons.
Yes or no?
Was that,
Go ahead.
no, was that, you know, that the companies agreed to limit the depth of the mine to the new area. It's not gonna be as deep as.
It's gonna be 760.
Yeah.
We're permitted to go to 700 in the older part of the quarry and part of the new. This new section, we've agreed to only go to 760 feet above mean sea level. So it's not gonna be as deep. It's the existing. Correct.
It's not, so it's not gonna be below groundwater.
Listen. You're talking about elevation, not depth you're talking about elevation.
Correct.
So our house, which is, okay, so our house is, I don't know the point, but we're right behind Harris's, you see that diagonal? Okay, so we're right, I know people go behind that, and our elevation is what? And our well is down 150.
So well. Yeah.
Did you go
about? We're at 760.
I guess
Water gets to you first. Water flows from the south.
the other concern I had going back when we built our house, Carl Schwartz told us, someday there might be a blast and it might just change everything.
He's an expert in that.
Not anymore, but he told us that, and it always kind of stuck with me, and we hear blast, and we do think about that, but I would hope that you're gonna say that the rock is really stable, and that it's not gonna affect somebody. We're only 800 feet, we're less than 1,000 feet away. The back of our property, our well's probably another couple hundred feet farther away, but, and if something does happen, not from removal of the stuff in the earth, but because of the blast, what's the procedure? If a blast did, a meter blast and a week later our well dry, what's the procedure? What's our recourse?
Well, there's a condition in the town special use permit that in the event that there's any damage caused by a blast, that there's a process for kind of reporting that for.
Who's to say what
the
caused
seller
the
to
damage?
investigate. Well, I think it would be on the company to investigate and be able to confirm whether or not there was any impact. Blast.
So we've been doing this for 55 years with blasts around there, and we have 3 wells in the quarry, and we blast literally next to them. We run some of them 24 hours a day, 7 days a
We
week.
hear it, we don't, you know,
You hear the wells?
no, we hear the blast.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying that we're there working next, so we get, I mean, there's a very, the size of the grass, there's been a lot of studies done, I can assure you, the blasting isn't gonna cause your well to go dry. And the distance, like I said, and the water flow in that area, they just did a study for Horseshoe Lane on the, drinking water source protection plan, and then the guy was talking about mining and what a good reputation it has, it doesn't hurt, not hurt the golf course. This is an independent person from, working for the state. And the flow of water there, we did studies back in the 1980s too. If you get in the right vein of water there, there's an ocean down there. I'm not sure if you're quite, yeah, I'm not sure if you're at 150, your guys are on the border of that elevation.
So just want to kind of bring this back to, appreciate the conversation though. Are there any more specific questions about the map or anything technical? So, and just to answer your question, the Quarry Commission will be receiving all complaints and all reports of any issues. We'll have there's gonna be a form on the website, there'll be ways to do it via phone or email, so that if you do notice something, the first group to notify is the Quarry Commission. And then, and then the Quarry Commission will kind of move through the process of investigating.
And DEC also has conditions in the permit regarding blasting, so they are familiar with evaluating complaints. And so I think between the town and DEC, it's gonna be covered.
There's actually an opening on the Quarry Commission, because we're looking for somebody on the side.
I was looking at somebody even closer, but maybe.
We would love to have them.
All right, so with that, we will move forward to the public hearing. So
Thank you.
Motion to waive the reading.
So I'll make a motion to waive the reading. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Make a
Motion carries.
motion to open the public hearing.
Second. Favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Anyone in the first row who'd like to make a comment for the Kinsella zone change public hearing? Okay, anyone in the second row?
Yeah, I have something.
Come on up.
I just love it. I've lived there for 28 years on Mulberry Lane, obviously, and they have been terrific neighbors, and we have never, ever had a problem with anything they've done. You know, in fact, you couldn't ask for a better corporate neighbor. So
Thank you.
I think it's got to be worth something.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, if you're in the audience, please do use the raise hand function, and we'll kind of slot you in throughout the public hearing. So anyone in the second row?
Hi, I'm Mary Karpinski. I live at 8300 Salt Springs Road, and I do have a prepared statement. The zone change application submitted to the town board by PH Kinsella Quarry is supported by many town residents who recognize the benefits this business and its management have provided to our community. This zone change will directly affect residents who live near the quarry when mining is conducted in the expanded acreage. To facilitate communication between residents, quarry management, and the town, as a homeowner on Salt Springs Road, I ask the town board to take the following actions. 1, appoint a representative of residents of the impacted area to the newly formed Town of Manlius Quarry Commission. At the request of neighbors, John Cayenne, who has a military background in ballistics and owns a home near the expanded mining area, applied to the town to serve on the commission in August 2024. Please consider his appointment to the commission. 2, post minutes of the Quarry Commission and related reports on the town website to apprise residents of developments. 3, post a schedule of blasting to inform residents in advance of dates and times blasting will occur. It's my understanding that the quarry contracts for blasting.
Yes.
Okay. It would be possible, Tom, to provide a schedule of blasting and make that available in advance?
Well, I mean, it's periodic. We only schedule maybe 2 to 3 days in advance. You know, we don't have a yearly plan. So it's, you know, based on when they can do it, the demand, you know, when we need the stone and weather conditions.
Okay. All right, but you know, I'm really going to
We do
encourage.
a call list, and a call list that you can get on, we notify the neighbors.
Yeah, I'm trying to set that up now, Tom, so that we can get information out to neighbors,
Sure.
and I'd be happy to work with you on it.
Well, we're working at it's a little antiquated right now.
Yeah. And Tom, I could give you, you know, the address list if that, you know, would be helpful.
So, just to let you know, so the Quarry Commission, part of the Quarry Commission is working on exactly making sure that there's notifications to all the residents as soon as possible and making sure that we have multiple ways of email, phone call, text messages and things like that. When we meet in May, that'll be one of the first topics of conversation.
John, who's on the Quarry Commission right now?
Myself, Craig Dutzak, Tom Kinsella, and Jerry Gould.
Okay, yeah, we don't have a representative yet, so would you please consider John's application?
Absolutely.
Last fall.
We're in the neighborhood, so I just want to get a noise level.
Well, my name's Joe Massinio. I live on Salt Springs Road. I'm supportive of the requested zone change for the quarry expansion with an emphasis on certain stipulations that should be a part of the approval that I want to suggest this evening. I live about a half a mile east of the quarry, and I've been there since 2010 and found the Kinsella Company to run a very clean and respectful operation. The service provided to Manlius and all of Onondaga County is an important part of maintaining our infrastructure at a reasonable cost to their customers, many of whom are town, county, and state entities. I've watched the planning board meetings that discuss this as well to get a better funded knowledge. And several issues were discussed that really should be very carefully documented. As time passes, people who are involved in the approval process, all of us, move on, pass away, whatever. It's very important that the details, I'm sure council will agree, memorialize in written form in great detail what the stipulations are that you're going to put on this for the community. A good clean document that has all these details really protects the town, the quarry, and the citizens that live nearby and minimizes the need for arguments 10 years from now that he said, she said kind of thing. It's really important because especially if the Kinsella family should decide to sell the quarry and we're now dealing with an out-of-town large corporate entity, which quarries are very valuable and their Tom can tell you, you probably get offers by that quarry all the time. Somebody that's from another country or another state, they don't care about the community quite like Tom does. So that's really, really important. It's frequently the case whenever the word water is involved in the town of Manlius and South Springs Road, something lands on my desk. As Sarah can tell you. Given the proximity of the expansion to a handful of homeowners who live adjacent to the new section, as well as across the street, I believe that there should be a rather regimented well monitoring situation. And computer modeling really cannot accurately predict what will happen to an aquifer once blasting begins. And historically, it's worked out pretty well because that's been there a long time and our wells have been there a long time. But I think another good idea
would be to establish benchmarks prior to blasting. If somebody reports a problem to the quarry commission 2 or 3 years from now after this change takes place, there needs to be a benchmark. So if somebody says my flow rate is down to 2 gallons a minute, unless you know what it was beforehand, it becomes a very difficult conversation for both parties. The same thing with water quality. Unless you benchmark that prior to the work, you're looking for an argument which can get contentious and be very expensive for all people involved. My suggestion is that the homeowners that are very close to there should have some very specific assurances, possibly even indemnification, saying that if these metrics get materially changed, that there will be immediate action taken by the quarry company, whoever it may be at the time, to remedy that situation. As you know, if you have no water, you have no home. The minute your water's off, you basically can't even live there anymore. So that's really my main suggestion, is that you establish benchmarks ahead of time and keep it as a part of the town record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
My name is Craig Dutzek. I am schizophrenic because I'm both a member of the Quarry Commission, but I'm also president of the Changing Seasons Neighborhood Association, which was largely responsible for negotiating the agreement that has been referred to. And I come up here today, I come not to bury Caesar, you know how that quote goes. But I do want to bring to the board's attention, and also to the larger public, elements of the agreement that Changing Seasons made with Kinsella that have, I'll say, benefits and other implications for the larger community. Please understand, the negotiations we had with Kinsella were obviously focused on an agreement prior that we had that dated from 2004. And while that was the focus of the agreement, it has implications, as I say, outside of that. I'll start with saying no one ever wakes up in the morning and says, I wish I could live next to a quarry. And it's with that understanding that the neighbors, both in our neighborhood association particularly, but also in the larger community, have the concerns that many of which have been addressed here. Part of what I wanted to respond to was I read the letters that were included in the documents, and including one from Deborah Tucker, I believe is the name, who asked questions about, well, you know, what has this agreement been? And we have shared the agreement with the town, so there are copies that you should have on file. And while this is not a public document, I'm happy to talk about what some of the elements are. In the planning board meetings, Mike Fogel, the attorney for Kinsella, mentioned some of these, so this is repetitious in one sense. The question of the depth, for example, in the expansion area, as Tom said, it's 760 feet AMSL, average mean sea level. And what is not mentioned, but was part of the agreement, is it also retroactively applies to 8 additional acres of the existing quarry. So it's not just the 11.8 acres, it's now almost close to 20 acres that won't go to that greater depth. I think that's to the benefit of, again, the larger community. Air quality monitors. A year and a half ago, it was in October, I believe, of 2023, at our initiative in the neighborhood, we put up air quality monitors from a corporation called purpleair.com. They're running constantly. Today, I looked at their measurements in AQI. They were 5 and 6 respectively. This is on a scale that goes from 0 to 500. We're in a very good range. To give you a comparison, and we use it for reference, the EPA monitor in East Syracuse was at 29. So obviously there's no pouring, there's no blasting going on today. So there's not going to be any effect from that. But to give you an idea of the sensitivity of these 2 monitors, which are roughly 200 yards apart, they're not, you know, they're in different locations in the neighborhood. earlier this year, there was a day when there was over a 20-point difference in the two monitors. What's accounting for it? And I noticed that one of my neighbors had their chimney, they're running the fireplace. It's sensitive enough to tell the difference from that distance. So the only thing that's really missing, and it's part of the agreement, is that Tom Kinsella has agreed to put up additional monitors on the east side of the quarry, which, given the direction of prevailing winds, is an additional thing to have evidence of, what's the effect of the monitor. A seismic monitor is something that the town has agreed to, and through a grant from Onondaga County, will be installed on a semi-permanent basis. So this, in addition to the monitoring that the blast has to do anyway, will give us a confirmatory measure of what are the effects of blasting. In conjunction with that, we've agreed to monitor one house, again, near the same site as the seismic monitor, with a crack gauge monitor, which will measure the effects of not only blasting on the house, but also the environmental effects, hydrology, freeze thaw, and so on. So we can rule in and rule out whether there are adverse effects from blasting to the foundation of a house. The Quarry Commission, has been reinaugurated. I will say somewhat critically, it hasn't done as much as it's promised so far, and it needs to do more, and we need to have the full complement of its membership. Nevertheless, the Quarry Committee that had existed prior went out of existence in 2016, and part of the initiation from the agreement was to reconstitute it. And we hope that we will have a proactive role in advising both the town as well as the neighbors as to the effects of the quarry on the community. And finally, again, to the effect of the quarry in what we'll call post-quarry operations, part of the agreement with Kinsella is that it would not be used as a dump, which obviously would have an adverse effect to all of us, at least in the proximity to it. There are other parts of the agreement that are more specific to our neighborhood, which I won't go into here, but I'm happy to bring this to the attention of the board because I think that, while, as I say, no one was lobbying for quarry expansion, we were able to at least create an agreement that is something that we think is both to the benefit of the neighborhood, to the larger community, and certainly for the quarry itself. Thank you.
Could you promote the person in attendance?
Hi, this is Heather Waters, and I live on Hogue Lane, but I am commenting tonight as a former town board member and a former co-chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I just wanted to say that I absolutely understand and would expect the town board to support this expansion of 11 acres or so. For a few clear reasons that were in the comprehensive plan. We have of course the zone map. We'd indicated that the quarry was a regional commercial section and recognized it as the Kinsella business as an important, part of our community. What I want to make a comment about is that it is not an area of purple as it was colored in the comprehensive plan. It is not an area that is beyond in the other acreage, the couple hundreds of acres that I know that Tom has. I think that it's great that there's a quarry commission because this is just sort of evidence of the really good communication and the diligence on behalf of the Kinsellas and also the town board and people like Craig Dudzak to really dig in and see what we have in common and what we can all agree on is great for our community. And a business like Kinsella being able to stay operating is certainly a great thing. I wanted to reflect on the fact that two other quarry sites that didn't have the same kind of reclamation plan that, maybe we would have today in a new quarry, are close to the town's commercial hubs and, near town center and on High Bridge, not too far from the village of Fayetteville as well. And they will be sites that are turning into housing. And so I think that that's another reason. And when thinking about zoning for quarries, we have to think about that reclamation process afterwards. So I would never want to see the reclamation turn into like housing sprawl, that kind of thing. So, and that I think was all expressed during the comprehensive plan process through the town discussions. So I just wanted to share that and thank everybody and just kind of like, just give everybody high fives for getting through the process, and particularly Deputy Supervisor Bollinger and Town Supervisor Deere. I know you've been working really hard. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the second row? Okay, anyone in the third row? Anyone in the last row? Okay, last call for folks from Zoom. Please use the raise hand function.
Got one. Yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, one question I had is, with the expansion or with the new zoning change for the new area, I see, neighbors nearby and changing seasons, asking for different stipulations, for the quarry going forward. But what I'm wondering is anyone opposing or exist nearby residents opposing the zone change for this quarry? And maybe changing seasons can answer that, or other neighbors could answer that?
Carrie, have we received any letters in opposition?
Not that I've seen. All the letters we received, other than the one I have to read, were posted, and I didn't see any of those.
So we don't, as of yet, we haven't received any comments in opposition of the expansion. But questions, many questions, but no opposition.
You want me to address that?
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, Deborah, this is Craig Gutzak, and I read your letter, and the answer to your question was, it was a 2.5-year process, actually longer, that we negotiated. And part of the negotiation was an internal one within the neighborhood as to whether we should oppose it, whether we should seek some kind of compromise. And ultimately, I would not be honest to say that there was great enthusiasm among everyone to move the path forward that we did. However, at the end of the day, all of the original signatories to the 2004 agreement who had to agree to the agreement be modified, signed on. And then we've had a couple of town halls within our own neighborhood to have conversations about this. And ultimately there was, and I don't want to say universal agreement that we should go ahead and do this, but there was not major opposition to it.
And how about the other neighbors in the other area?
So we haven't received any comments except for the letter you're gonna read?
No, that's not even.
So we haven't received any comments from anyone in opposition.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one final call. Will anyone like to make a comment at this public hearing? Yeah, go for it.
Dear Manlius Town Board Councilors and Supervisor Deere, I'm writing to provide comments for the public hearing on the TH Casella Quarry Zone Change application. As I have been following this issue closely, I have viewed recent planning board meetings pertaining to this and listened carefully to the comments provided. I would like to echo the recommendations they have sent to the town board pertaining to this zone change. The planning board's first recommendation is that the town board add a member to the quarry commission from the south side of the quarry, South Springs Road. This matter has been brought up at the town board meetings before open podium sessions, once in January and again in February. In fact, the quarry commission was also recently tasked with making determination as to the manner in which commission was also properties adjacent to the quarry may be advised of known blasts. The revised natural resource permit renewal resolution as of February 24, 2025. Given this context, I respectfully ask, what is the current status of the quarry commission? Who are the members and have any appointments been made? How frequently will the group meet, and will their meeting minutes and documents be made available to the public? It seems evident that the commission will play a key role in any quarry activities in the town of Manlius going forward. So these issues merit attention and transparency. The second recommendation from the planning board was that the town board consider the quarry study group's recommendation in the comprehensive plan when evaluating the project. I wholeheartedly agree with this recommendation. A significant amount of time and thoughtful effort has gone into developing these recommendations, and I believe they should be carefully utilized as the project moves forward. I would also like to address one specific point raised during the recent planning board meeting on March 10th. When water resources were discussed in relation to the quarry expansion, it was stated on 2 occasions that there would be no impact on any groundwater wells because mining will not occur below the water table. I am curious about this statement. From my work with the quarry study group, I understand that the effects of water resources from this type of land use are highly complex and require thorough consideration. This point underscores the importance of heeding the planning board's recommendations. In this instance, the town board should refer to the hydrogeology and mining section of the quarry study group's recommendations with the comprehensive plan. This would also be ideal opportunity to make full use of the expertise on the quarry commission, including the input from the hydrogeologist that, to my understanding, is currently serving on the commission. Thank you for your time and consideration of these points. I trust that the town board will carefully consider these recommendations and address the questions raised to ensure a transparent and well-informed decision-making process regarding the zone change application. Respectfully, Kelly Wells.
Any other comments? Last call for Zoom. We do have a hand. I think it was the person who was.
Yeah, that was the, yeah.
So, motion to close the.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Close.
So I do have one other task on this topic is, as was suggested by the planning board, we're going to run through the quarry study group recommendations. The first area of recommendation is around neighbors. This has all been discussed, so I'm just putting this in the context of the public record as was recommended. So it was the recommendation that we have the commission reformed, which it has been, or just as a neighborhood advisory group. So that would be the same kind of an idea. And that we should maintain a list of the residents that are contiguous and of the means of reaching out to them should there be a need. So that's going to fall, we believe that's already, in the works, but that is an expectation that there be a list of who are the people and how do I reach them if I need to let them know about something that's going on, such as blasting. And that so that's that first one about neighbors. The next issue, as was mentioned by Ms. Wells, was the hydrology section, the impact on groundwater. And I understand there's no new wells. The wells you already have at Casella will be the ones providing the water. So there's no additional drain on water compared to any water that was being done before. Mr. Messinio suggested some kind of baseline testing. I think the commission could look into whether there was a, particularly houses that are, I mean, I guess it's the house that you own, but that property that's right next to where the new site is, maybe there could be some baseline testing as well. To just address the issue of the, how would we know if water pressure can change if we don't know what it is now? So that would be a question to look at. And then the next area was on environmental. If I recall, there are no trees growing anywhere near where you're doing anything there. So I don't think there's any environmental degradation sort of on the site that you're actually mining. There is some discussion around reclamation afterwards kind of thing, which I think that's a sort of a bigger conversation around. Right now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the reclamation is basically grass, and that there could be some bigger plan when you actually stop mining to do something better as far as reclamation.
That's correct.
So, but we're not having dust blowing around. We do plant grass.
Yeah.
As you know. There's no endangered species. It's just rock. Are there endangered like rock creatures that? I don't know. There's somebody that lives northern long eared cat. There's no trees for cats.
Yeah.
So that's it for that. And then the next area is the regulations of the mining. And Mr. Fogel outlined that there's the zoning, then there's the permitting, then there's the DEC. So that addresses this section of the quarry report. And then the last one was whether there would be any historic implications in this site. Doesn't have any. So I think that is just addressing these concerns that were suggested by the planning board, that we run through these and make sure that we've addressed each of these areas. So I would say that from this public hearing, what I'm hearing, in addition to all the things that the quarry committee has already put into place or hypothesized that at the May meeting we will be putting into place, would be some conversation about some selecting a couple of wells to test to just make sure that we, should something happen in the future, we know what it used to be like.
Thank you. Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much for everyone that participated. So moving on.
So could it be possible to give the quarry a chance to make comments based on any of our comments, or are you gonna do that?
We're not going to vote today, so I don't know, Mr. Fogel, do you want to do that now, or would you like to prepare something and do that later?
I'm sorry, I missed the.
He wants you to
You want
respond.
to make further comments based on what we have spoken to adhere and respond, or not?
No, I mean, I think we addressed a lot of those, so we appreciate the comments. We'll certainly go over.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've heard all those for 50+ years. Like I said, we got it pretty good. Just talking to him about the DEC does have, we've done it before on some people that want to participate in there, whether they can check their wells, if you can do some testing of them and stuff. I was just discussing that with Mike. With that. So, as we hear these comments, we're digging into it a little bit more and come up with some ideas for some of the concerns.
Can I request that our well be done now?
We will discuss it in the quarry commission.
So you'll reach out to people, neighbors, and ask if this is the time to request that we get that done.
We'll definitely reach out. You've got a member of the quarry commission right there. And then just understanding that the public hearing is closed, but we are having a conversation here, so could you promote Deborah?
No, I didn't realize the public hearing was closed, but my question kind of follows from what the person was just saying, was how effective has the Quarry Commission been so far? I don't know if Changing Seasons could report on that, or if anybody else knows.
The only discussions we've had were about scheduling, general intent of the quarry commission, some of the items. we haven't had an official meeting yet where we've started the process, only because blasting, doesn't begin for quite some time. And so the first official meeting of the quarry commission will be happening in May. I forget exactly what the date, 27th? May 27th is the first meeting.
Is that a public meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mhm. All right, thank you.
Great. Okay. We'll move on.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Supervisor Deere, do you want to,
Oh,
entertain a motion, to declare,
Oh, I was hoping to say that.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, we just need to entertain a motion to declare the town board as an agency under secret for this unlisted action. So moved.
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do secret.
Yeah, you see yourself.
Yeah, so Jamie, we're gonna prepare a secret. for our next
Yes,
session.
so we'll do that.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about whether or not we should explain.
Do you want
So we did have a bid appropriately posted and opened by our clerk. And it was for on-call utility drainage and emergency services. So this is basically excavation services for equipment that we don't happen to own. And people that would be available when we had sort of a short notice issue where something had to be dug up in a hurry. And we would like to award that bid to Castanella Excavating LLC.
I will say, when West had new emergency works on my property, it was just who they called on. And the president gave me a cell phone number, he was available, they were very quick, they were very timely, very respectful. They do good work.
Yeah. And they do this kind of work that we're exactly asking about, so. All right, great. So would you like to second the motion?
Read it first.
It's on one of these pages, there we go. I would like to make a motion to award the bid for on-call services, utility drainage, emergency repair services to Castanella Excavating based on the fees listed in Appendix A.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And then a more complicated process, it was for the remaining bid on the bigger highway department renovation project. And I'd like to, and this did require some work on the part of our consultants. But they have decided to recommend that we make a motion. So therefore I will make a motion to award the plumbing contract to Posler and Jekyll Corp. In the amount of $229,875 for the town highway garage additions and renovations, subject to legal review.
This is the rebid.
This is the rebid. For plumbing.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And then I'd like to make a motion to award the fire protection contract to RH Fire LLC in the amount of $162,000 for the town highway garage additions and renovations project, subject to legal review.
I have some, just a quick question for town manager. This was the same company, my understanding is that bid the first time around, and then was the only company that bid again for this, correct? Was there any changes to their bid this time, do you know?
No, there was no changes to it.
Okay, thank you.
We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, oh geez, me again.
Well, yeah, well, I think next on the agenda is the update from the highway department, brush drop off.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention specifically tonight myself. So, in the past, we've had, the highway department has allowed residents to bring their brush in Usually Monday through Friday from 7 to 2:30 in the afternoon. But with the understanding that what's going on with the facility right now and how much, different facilities are going to be there. We have to move our parking lot for our private parking lot for our employees, or we move it over to the other side of the building. And again, there's going to be a lot more motion going on with vehicles, not only our own vehicles, but other contractors are going to be working in facilities. So, I thought it would be in the best interest for all of us, for safety reasons alone, and for liability, that we take and just do 1 day a week. And right now I'm proposing starting April 14th, that we do on Mondays. We leave the gate open from the normal time from 7 to 2:30. And that'll be just for our residents only, with the exception of no dump trailers. We're not allowed people to be bringing dump trailers or heavy pieces of equipment in, i.e. any of the landscapers that have been dropping off there in the past. So we're not going to allow that. And certainly, if we need to, we'll get involved with the police and make sure that they're kind of keeping an eye on that. It's not going to be policed on a daily basis. It's only going to be open 1 day a week. We're going to close the gates when it's not happening. It's not open. So I want to make sure that's clear. We're going to put everything, do notices that we can on the town's website. I'm going to work with Duffy and see if we can get that information out on the media sites if we can. So.
And then I have on top.
Okay.
It's approved, we'll go ahead and get it.
So I just want to make sure that the board was aware of that. If anyone has questions or concerns of why or what we're doing, you guys knew what was going on. So
You guys, are you okay? Because we were just afraid with all the construction vehicles coming down and stuff going on.
I thought you were gonna say you're gonna close it off for good and send everybody to the town of Sullivan.
Well, no. It'd be nice, well, I do that. But, yeah, there is, Oprah does accept, brush, over Route 91 in Janesville, so they still will be doing it. Certainly the brush district will be picking up the normal brush and stuff, but this is just mainly for those people that have always been coming in. I want to make sure that they know. And again, our residents that want to come in, with a pickup truck load or the garbage cans or whatever on Mondays, we're going to allow it. Just, we've had a lot of contractors that have been coming in, and it's very difficult for the highway department to police that.
It's gonna be a busy
I
time.
think it's time that we just be doing our due diligence and for the safety purposes. We just can't allow that here. And I've talked to the GC who's going to be running the program here for us, at the facility with the rest of our contractors. So everyone's about understanding that Mondays, we're going to try not to do deliveries for our other contractors on Mondays. So we're just trying to make sure that it all works for everyone. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So other projects. And a bid was put out, appropriately noticed, opened by the clerk, and we would like to have a motion to award a bid for Skyridge Water Supply District 2025 Infrastructure Improvements Project Contract Number 2 Booster Pump Stations to EFI Solutions Inc. in the amount of $411,000 and $888. $411,888. And this is a prefab. It's basically everything but the roof. The whole thing comes and you just drop it in.
Was this already included in that project, or is it something that?
This is, there's three parts of, three different bids within it. There was the tank, the two tanks we already approved.
Right.
Then there's this, which is the prefab building that goes on top of the well. And then the third one is the people who are actually gonna dig and put the pipes in.
Okay, so we expected a booster.
Yeah.
This is-
And the good news is for the tanks that we ordered a month ago, they've already requested a permit, so they're like, so.
And the cemetery's reviewed.
Yeah, we haven't received the contract yet. We just got the proposal, so I will review the contract once we receive it.
Do you want me to add that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, because.
All right, with legal review, so amend motion with legal review.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I don't know what's going on, but water boosters are like all the rage right now. We're constantly at work everywhere, everyone's talking about water boosters.
But this is a very,
City,
this is a
everywhere.
very big one.
So the next item on the agenda, we have a side letter with the PDA. When we did adopt the collective bargaining agreement with the PBA, it was not formatted at the time with like page numbers and things like that. So one of our officers took it upon himself to make sure it's formatted. We reviewed it. This is just so that when we say page 27 of the contract, there's an understanding that we're talking about this formatted version of the contract. So any questions?
Yeah, we like to be thorough, we like to be accurate, so I will make that motion to authorize the supervisor to sign this side letter to the town of Manlius Policemen Owned Association relating to the agreement signed on March 1st, 2024.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, so this is a contract with Esri. As we've been talking about in some meetings, we are working with our town engineer, Labella, to implement a town GIS platform. And so we've had a lot of success with that project so far. Basically what we've got is Labella has our whole instance of GIS stood up. We've been working to get our own hardware to host that internally. And this is the kind of final piece before we have GIS, which is paying for the licenses from year to year. And then the only thing I do want to call out is that amount.
It's not the same.
Yeah, so the amount that is in the prepared motion, that is with sales tax, this is without sales tax. So if you want to make it at that amount, and we'll make sure you get that number for the minutes.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the invoice from Environmental Systems Research Institute for GIS services in the amount of $13,542.79.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we are going to set a date for a work session for the Board of Ethics for April 30th, 2025 at 5 p.m. This is, we've referred to this a couple times in previous meetings. This is the date that works for the entire Board of Ethics.
Yes, I appreciate the patience of everybody who's been weighing in on us. I got a few calls from the public about this, and we finally have pinned down the date. So I'd like to make that motion to schedule a work session to discuss not only the advisory opinions that have already been submitted by the Board of Ethics, but any other business. We do have some draft policy and procedure that we're going to be discussing for April 30th, 2025 here in this boardroom at 5 p.m.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Maria, would you talk to us just a little bit about the transfers or the fund closures that we've got here on the agenda?
Yep, let me bring up my email. I was discussing it with Councilor Nicholson just a little bit before. So SS1 is no longer used. This was the consolidated sewer district that was turned over to Onondaga County in 2019. And the last invoice was paid in 2020. This fund should have been closed down in 2020 when the last payment was made. So per the comptroller, we just wanted it to be included in the board meeting so that the town attorney knew and the councilors knew that we were closing out the fund SS1.
But it has money in it.
Correct. So it's moving to the A fund.
It is. It's not often we get to do
Yeah,
that.
right, this is great. So, Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the fund closure transfer in the amount of $75,105 from Fund SS 3.914 assigned appropriated fund balance to A Fund 3.914 assigned appropriated fund.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the fund closure transfer in the amount of $47,499.85 from account SS1 3.915 assigned unappropriated fund balance to A Fund 3.915 assigned unappropriated fund balance.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
The third motion to approve the fund closure transfer in the amount of $25.89 from account SS1 4.2401 interest and earnings to A Fund 4.2401 interest and earnings.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then next up for the budget transfers,
Tell us about those.
yeah. cold storage building, to maintenance to cold storage.
So I just found out today that the dollar amount that was in the 448 account, Rob wants in the 499 account. So we're just transferring the budget from 448 to 449 and the 449 to 448.
So I'll make that motion, Mr. Supervisor, to approve the budget transfer in the amount of $433,150 from the A fund account 5.5132.448 garage cold storage building to A fund 5.5132.449 garage maintenance building.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And the next motion to approve the budget transfer in the amount of $5,000 from account A fund 5.5132.449 garage maintenance building to A fund 5.5132.448 garage cold storage building.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I know we always talk about how we have to read each one of those. Maybe we can just see if we can just call it a switcheroo next time. Just get it done a little quicker. Did anybody have any announcements or business or anything like that that we need to discuss?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly update. So Manlius Watershed Stewards has been conducting a creekside, waterside public survey for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to leave it up and open. If you see political type signs, there's a QR code on these signs and some of the common areas that people like to walk, contemplate, and exercise, and commune with nature. And so that's going to be open for a few more weeks, and feel free to give us some feedback on how you enjoy the water release that run through the town of Manlius. And then I also wanted to just make a reminder to the general public and anybody tuning in later that we do have the web contact form on the town's website for Manlius Watershed Stewards. As spring thaw and melt is happening and people are paying more attention to water being in places that it shouldn't be, we have a means to communicate some of those issues to us. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, so they're on the watershed stewards, there's a place for you to write in and send a photo of if you've got flooding in your neighborhood, so. Which you all can use. There's minutes first.
So I have another.
Go ahead.
So the tree commission's tree inventory that we received a grant for has been completed. It will be we've received a draft report of it when it was presented to us, and we're going to be receiving the final report soon, and it will be being presented to the board at all of our upcoming meetings.
That's great.
Anything else? Approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 12th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
And I would like to make a motion to offer abstract number 6 in the amount of $383,445.92.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, have a wonderful night, everybody.